Welcome to research your Chiron into Taurus, 3 months forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. On June the 19th through to September the 18th, for an initial 3 months, Chiron, the so-called wounded healer, moves into the practical earthy Taurus for the first time since 1984. In my last video, I explored Chiron's 50-year cycle, unusual orbit, and recapped its journey through Aries. In this video, I'm going to work on how we can heal the wound of self-worth, very much to do with Taurus, but also how we can unlock a greater sense of personal value. On the screen is the event chart of Chiron's arrival in Taurus, but from a purely Cancer viewpoint. At the end of the video, you'll have a clearer picture of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances over that time. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive, but please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. Chiron, the so-called wounded healer, the wound we can never heal. Now, some astrologers correlate Chiron to physical health, and I think when Chiron does make aspects, particularly with Saturn and Pluto, it's worth being aware of it. But for me, Chiron is very much to do with how we think. It can, in our natal chart, be our superpower, but it can be where we feel we get the least amount of validation, which is intriguing because the sign of Taurus very much about validation because it is ruled by Venus, the planet which is very much to do with value, the earth and money, and also our personal self-worth. But Chiron's going to be here for this initial 3 months, but as it begins the journey, it's forging two absolutely brilliant angles. The first is to the moon, your ruling planet in the virtuous sign of Virgo in the third house. That's very much about how we think, can be to do with our ideas, it can be to do with our beliefs, but also our immediate everyday environment. And Virgo likes things to be pretty ship-shaped, doesn't it? Things up together and be rather ordered. But the energy for Chiron for you is actually in your 11th solar house. And that's very much to do with how we connect to others, our social network. It can be to do with how connected we are to our higher purpose and our long-term plans. And if any of those things are being inhibited in your life, the opportunity of this initial 3 months, particularly with the support of the moon, is to engage and think about and work on how you can release any wound which stopping you from really flowing and flowering when it comes particularly to your social interaction. But what I would say is with Chiron in the sign of Taurus, we can get caught up very much in terms of the material world, possessions, and how much money we feel that we'd like to have. There's nothing wrong with having nice things and money. It's more to do with our relationship to that. So when it comes to our interactions with others, if we have people that we're connected to that are really authentic, the chances are they're not going to be as focused on what we do for a living, what car we drive, or what property we live in. But of course, it's important to have those fundamentals working well because that in itself gives us a degree of stability. So it's not about being hugely idealistic, it's about balance. So I feel for you, Chiron in the 11th house is making you perhaps need to be aware of, are you heading in your future destiny towards what's really important to you? Are you on the pathway which really aligns with your soul purpose? And being a water sign, I think that's more important for you than perhaps any other zodiac sign. And as much as you may want to stay with something that does give you that physical resonance in the world, again, nothing wrong with that. If that's taking you away from what would really inspire you, that could be an opportunity missed. It's also worth knowing that the sign of Taurus, because it can be about what's practical and tangible can be about where we can be very generous. And if we can be generous to those who are less fortunate, that actually can give us a boost too. But sometimes it's difficult to let go if we're quite fearful. So if there is a degree of fear about your future, about your income, about how people might view you within your social network, then all of that can show up over the next 3 months. It's also important if you are successful not to feel guilty about that. Don't judge yourself because you're doing well. That would have come from your endeavors. It would have come from your talent. You're one of the leaders of the zodiac. And I actually think that gets missed a lot when people talk about Cancer. Yes, they talk about your ability to nurture, to be empathetic, to be very aware of atmospheres, all very true. But you do have a tenacity, which means that as a leader, you're very good at organizing and you're very good at extracting value from whatever resources you have. So, in that sense, you're very attuned to the energy of Chiron. And just to say, when we have the summer solstice, I know it's the winter solstice in the south. Western tropical astrology is predicated on the seasons, and it is a Mediterranean construct. When we have the summer solstice, the sun moves into Cancer and links back it to Chiron in a sensational way. So a rebirth is coming for you, a rebirth which can put you back in touch with what really matters to you in terms of your personal values. Very Tauran, but it doesn't have to be physical values. But if it is, if that is important to you, then don't judge it for sure. We do know that Taurus can be what we're attached to because it is very much to do with it's a fixed sign, and because its ruler Venus is very essential, that is something to be conscious of as well. So if there are things that you feel you have to do in order to fit in, I don't feel that necessarily is really being in touch with who you can truly be. Don't look for external validation over these next 3 months. Also, the 11th house can be very much to do with a more idealistic part of life. Sometimes, if we do release something that we have, because we know that whilst it may bring something to us, if it's stealing something else, stealing something from our soul, then that doesn't work. So that may be something to consider too. So if you are doing something at the moment that is practically successful, but you just really don't enjoy it, I think it is time for a rethink. Now, of course, Chiron has the reputation of being about health. So, what about the friends in your circle that actually, although you may be fond of them, they drain you? I don't mean to be unkind at all because, I've got a little dog. And when I'm walking with her in the mornings, she's very friendly. But sometimes she'll go up to people that I don't necessarily like the look of, and she will really respond to them in a lovely way. There are other people that I think, oh, they look nice, and she isn't interested in because she's very perceptive. So she's going for what works for her, not what works for me, rightly. So there may be some people that you actually like but aren't very good for your energy. And that could be in your social interactions. It may be in some kind of group situation that you're in. And if that isn't really working for you, this is a fabulous chance to rework things. Not least Cancer, because Mars, the planet of desire, the rule of the sign of Aries, where Chiron is just coming from, is in a fantastic link with Mercury and Jupiter in your zodiac sign. And I don't feel that Jupiter's really delivered for you so far through its near to 13 months journey, but I think it can from now towards the end of June. And Mars can be part of that. So you're aligning to people who give you uplift, who don't drain you, because maybe you are someone who does listen to people's issues. I think in a way what Chiron's asking you to do is reinforce your boundaries, not to be unkind or unfriendly, but just look after your space and your time and align with people who are truly right for you. And I think, to be honest, in that situation, you're going to be very much a leader, or at least part of the leading group of people within any dynamic situation you're in. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas for you now of energy, work, relationships, and finances. But just before I do, just to say, for many years, I've sold my personal horoscope reports at 30% off for two. Because of the cost of living increases, I want to make them to continue to be accessible. So I've reduced the price now. So you pay for one and get three. So three for the price of one. The one you pay for is your life roadmap report, which helps us to understand the patterns that are played out in our lives, get a more intimate understanding of them, and also make better decisions future forwards. Three, your 12 months transit forecast, but also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your Jupiter No More Blockages video, it's been hugely popular. Please check that out on screen. If you've yet to watch your Gemini New Moon video, that's on screen. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be an absolute pleasure. I work with people the world over. Please see my testimonials below. And if you've yet to take advantage of my free daily written horoscope, buy it to your device each morning for your early day celestial pit stop. Please see that below too as well. So in terms of energy, I think it's important to be mindful in your social connections who is good for your energy and who tends to drain it, but don't see it in a personal way. I also think if you're doing a job which you're not enjoying, very heavy, very demanding, maybe a boss who scrutinizes or micromanages, then that also can be something that saps your vitality too. And do know that with Uranus and the Sun in your 12th house, being very much in touch with your emotional and spiritual dimension at the moment is very important. In terms of your professional situation, as much as it can be draining, if you're doing something that's very imaginative and creative, I actually think it could make you a lot of money at the moment. Venus in a sensational link with Neptune, but it really needs to be something that you feel very at peace with. Now, as far as your love life's concerned, don't be surprised if over the next 3 months you encounter someone who really has an impact, but you may find them very difficult to ignore, and you may also find it very difficult to resist them. But whether they're the right person for you or not is another matter. That's Venus opposite Pluto. If you're in an ongoing relationship that, has its moments, but on the whole, it's pretty good. I think the thing to celebrate is the things you have in common, and that means not focusing so much on the things that make you different. So, in other words, your friendship. If, however, you are not enjoying a relationship at the moment, I think it may be because you don't really feel that the person tunes in to that more soul-led energy of yours, or if you find them very critical or picky, don't feel that you have no options, particularly with Uranus now in your 12th house, because Uranus is in fact in a T-square with the nodal axis, as much as Chiron forges a lovely link with Neptune, sort of the North Node. So that's really pushing you to follow that more inspired route. But if you're in a relationship with someone who really doesn't get you, do think again. And I've mentioned about the romantic dimension of Venus opposite Pluto, but that could also catapult some more money into your situation as well, particularly if you are a creative. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Cancer. Look forward to seeing you again soon and take care for now.